And we only had 17 original applicants, and now we're at 50 plus farms. So, and that was really just because of the open door policy that quickly spread around the state, that this was an easier place to get these licenses come. And I think the economic benefit has been huge up to this point, both in terms of investment in the local economy as well as job creation. That said, I think that the flip side of that is that a lot of operations have just gone wherever they could, and not a lot of thought went inside that. I think a large part of the industry has policed themselves quite well. I do feel like that there are probably some operations that are not well placed, and I think that those should be addressed. But the licenses are continuing to come. That Liquor Control Board is beginning to put pressure on licenses to get it done, find your place, get licensed or else. So we're starting to see, I think we'll see, or we're probably in the process, you may know more about how many licenses are kind of in flux right now, but I think the number is going to grow to about 70, which is, puts us above King County and behind Spokane County. I think that the best way to address this would be to create a zoning overlay where it's a permitted use, and then have conditional use outside of that zoning. And I think that there's enough good players that cited themselves with a lot of the potential complaints beforehand, and I think that we can, and they're also highly concentrated in a couple areas. And so it would be quite easy to put that overlay over them and create a permitted use for marijuana in some of these zones where they are appropriately placed, and then adopt conditional use for everything outside of that zone. And I think one other thing we should think about while we're zoning and even in permitted use is potentially controlling the light pollution that I guess I would like to know where we're at in this process, and get an idea of where the commissioners sit on it as far as moving forward and how it's going to be regulated in the county.
Well, let's say, by way of quick recap, the zoning ordinance out for review. Again, March 28, 7 o'clock, right here is your public hearing in front of the Planning Commission. The draft that they are looking at is the result of work sessions with staff and Board of County Commissioners, and subsequently an advisory group they convened to do further review. The current proposal is that it be a conditional use permit, I believe in all zones, if memory serves correctly. And there is an amortization period included. I don't recall what that is at this point. So that is the proposal that is going to the Planning Commission. Planning Commission will review that and the rest of the zone code. And after the public comment, after their deliberation, will propose any amendments they believe appropriate, and will eventually transmit their work product to the commissioners with a recommendation. Ordinarily, it's do adopt with these proposed changes, although that isn't necessarily always the case.
Is there an opportunity to entertain creating some zones where it's permitted use prior to the 27th meeting?
Well, we're in a written comment period now. Okay. So if anybody has written suggestions you want to make, get those to me. They'll go to the Planning Commission. I'm sorry?
As it is, where their recommendation to the Planning Commission is conditional use across the
that's what's currently in the zone code.
Is there any appetite among the commissioners to revisit that?
Well, I would counsel the commissioners not engage in that discussion until you've had public comment. And the first tier review is the Planning Commission. I mean, the commissioners have already signaled at least the opening proposal. Planning Commission will review appropriately, get those comments into the Planning Commission, engage with them. I mean,
we've done all we're going to do till after the Planning Commission.
Say the ball's in their court at this point.
Our place is right here for after that meeting there. So.
Once it leaves the Planning Commission, the Board of County Commissioners will take that draft and consider it, doing whatever they wish to within their authority, but there will be an open record public hearing and a comment period between the time the Planning Commission transmit to that public hearing. So yet another opportunity for everybody to weigh in. So that's the process. I would recommend that we, at least in terms of this afternoon, stick with that.
Okay, well, I do think that there should be some farms that are permitted use, and I think that they should be.
You're talking to the wrong board right now.
But, okay.
Now, those go to the Planning Commission, and those recommendations don't go to us now. We've already gone through our process now. So now those recommendations go to the Planning Commission. They're meeting on the 28th there. So how do you want it?
Written public comment is open.
Yeah. So
public comments open. Okay. We missed the opportunity then to be at the table when the decision for.
No, you had the opportunity. Those were open meetings also.
Yeah.
So
no,
you didn't.
I missed it.
Recognize it. So that's.
Okay.
Lots of process left. Lots of process left.
They're a hard read right now, and well, I asked them, and they seemed unwilling to really say what their thoughts were. You know, obviously we've not been at the table when they've had these discussions prior to today. You know, I'd been talking to Perry quite a bit, but never got the sense that there was an opportunity to maybe do something other than recommend full conditional use permit to the Planning Commission, which really creates an uphill battle now and punishes everybody equally. I think that there were plenty of operators that cited their operations quite selectively, and it would have been quite easy to reward those with a permitted use and then handle all the others outside of those zones as conditional use permits. But to just put conditional use on the entire industry, I think is going to really open this up for us to rehash whether we like marijuana or not every year, and I think that would be bad for business and bad for the economic development. Well, that's if you only want to think about the tax and not about the jobs and the money that's being spent here, which is huge, you know. And I think to just think about the county's coffers and to really not have regulate in a way that will encourage the industry just because you don't feel like you've gotten enough taxes is not a responsible governance for sure. And I think there's plenty of opportunity to work with the state to continue to get more of that back. And in fact, we already changed the state law once since the initiative to allow money to come back to local counties for enforcement. And in fact, they've received some amount of money, and that will continue to grow. The only way you can receive that money that's geared towards local communities is if you actually have the farms. So if we don't have the farms, it's going to moratorium would be a really bad idea. Even though the LCB is starting to wind down the applications themselves, there's a lot of existing licensed places in other moratorium counties that would come over here, buy land, and employ people, spend a lot of money to move their operations here. We could become the largest producer of marijuana in the state quite easily. We're set up to be the largest producer in the state, and if all of a sudden we change this, we're really kissing goodbye to a lot of money that this county desperately needs. And if it doesn't come in the form of taxes, it's in the form of jobs and living wages that people need around here. So it would have been really easy earlier in the process to just find where the high density acceptable uses are and have permitted use. We could have our own marijuana overlay over the zoning. You know, the zoning doesn't make a lot of sense in the first place, that you can't really zone for marijuana by current zoning layout. So you really need to create a whole nother marijuana permitted zone. And you can capture, and this is what I haven't had enough chance to look at the maps and come up with the zones, but you can capture a big percentage of the farms just in a couple areas. And to make us all jump through these hoops just because some people are in less than desirable places is really ridiculous for the whole industry and sends a bad signal to people that are thinking about coming here and investing quite a bit of money. You know, I think that there's been no economic analysis on the impact. I know it's been huge, just anecdotally. You know, I've generated a few $1 million, and I've put most of that into the community. I have wages that were over $500,000 just last year, and I'm just one of the companies. You know, and yeah, I'm one of the bigger ones because I got started off early. But if some of these companies start to reach some of these levels, we're going to see, few million, $3, $5, $7 million worth of labor. I think we're already seeing that. that, and it's only going to go up from there. So, you know, it could be, if this conditional use goes poorly, I think we're going to kiss goodbye to a whole economic development here that's in the works, currently in the works.
The ultimate result would be at least to have the effects of the farms mitigated, light pollution decreased, the stench of the actual farms decreased through filtration, cleaning up the eyesore that the fences and the facilities are, and also the traffic that comes in and out and has become a traffic hazard. So those are some of the basic things that we see. The grow is happening year round.
Okay.
I mean, you can smell it year round now, every cycle. It goes through the winter. It's just developed into such a problem, you know, recently. But certain things have come to light about zoning issues, and some other factors, including the expansion of this one operation right next door to me to a size that is totally out of control. It's pushing 30+ acres now, and it's right next to kids and families and residences, and it's inappropriate. Well, I'm not sure about a moratorium, but to slow down until you have specific rules in place so that all of these issues are addressed and that there's no longer a problem associated with these grows. Just through articles in the Wenatchee World and how Chelan County and the town of Plain are dealing with their issues, they seem to be on an appropriate track, which would be filtration of the stench of when they're drying the product, light abatement through some type of cover, and appropriately zoning someplace where it's not affecting kids and families. Have it literally in a commercial zone.
Okay. Just not in your neighborhood.
Which probably is too late.